We are living in interesting times, and it's making me think historically more than usual. Something I naturally do anyway, but some things have been more in my mind recently than in the past. Just like in history and in novels, you have canons, you have precedent. The Adventures of Luther Arkwright by Bryan Talbot began in 1978. He completed it in 1987. If anyone likes the works of Warren Ellis, Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, or Hickman, and the multiverse, it all began with Arkwright. Bryan Talbot had grown frustrated in the 70s with the comic book medium. Films and novels had already matured, and he didn't see that with comics. Michael Moorcock's New Worlds from the 1960s and 70s, which helped modernize science fiction as we know it, with the writings of Ballard, Norman Spinard, Harlan Ellison, Michael Moorcock, among so many others, had a deep influence on Talbot. And he wanted to create something in comics which was very similar to that. He wanted to incorporate history, politics, sex, real-life events, and tell the story in a non-linear way, just like you would see in a novel or in a film. The idea was to do a serialized comic and then put it together in a novel, a graphic novel. Basically, the story is about a multiverse of parallel Earths, which are threatened by a group known as the Disruptors, who want to bring division and chaos to the multiverse. Luther Arkwright is like something out of Nietzsche's Overman. He can physically travel the multiverse, and his job is to prevent the Disruptors from fulfilling their plan. Much of the action takes place in one universe, where the English Civil War in England never ended. For 300 years, the Cromwell family has ruled. The continent of Europe is dominated by the Prussian and Russian empires, and they're all about to go to war. It's a ploy, though, to bring out the Disruptors. And Luther could then travel to their universe and stop them. Now, Cromwell's England is interesting. It's a right-wing Protestant dictatorship. Cromwell's speeches are nationalistic, martial. He exploits Christianity and the military to maintain order and fear of the other. Cromwell sees himself as the chosen one by God, protecting the island against the forces of evil. One people, one commonwealth, one leader. Where have you heard that before? That's right, Hitler. Now, the backdrop to these stories, according to Talbot, is that he was very much concerned with the social unrest in England at the time, the rise of the right wing and the fascist parties, the emergence of Thatcher, apartheid in South Africa, the overthrow of Salvador Allende's government by a military coup with the backing of the United States in the early 70s. There's an anti-fascist theme throughout this book. He really feared there would be another Third Reich emerging in England, a sentiment shared by Pat Mills from 2000 AD, Nemesis, Martial Law, and Alan Moore, who a few years later, influenced in part by this story, would come to write V for Vendetta. Everything is that we are so familiar with comics now, the nonlinear approach to stomach, multiple voices speaking. And if you don't, as you can see there's no explosion, no balloons like that. It was very different at the time. I already mentioned his literary influences, but when it came to films, Nick Rogue's Walkabout, The Man Who Fell to Earth, the Spaghetti Westerns by Sergio Leone. When it came to art, it was William Hogarth, the 17th century satirist and artist. And we see some of those patterns here. And also Jerry Cornelius, The Airtight Garage of Jerry Cornelius by Mobius, which Talbot had discovered in the pages of Meadow Hurlant. In 2005, there was an audio version of the story with David Tennant on the eve of taking the mantle as Doctor Who, was in the role of Luther Arkwright. If you have Spotify, you can listen to it there. The trade paperbacks have had introductions by Michael Moorcock, Ian Banks, and Ramsey Campbell. Admirers of the work include Jack Kirby, Will Eisner, Harvey Kurtzman, Clive Barker, Stephen Bissett, and like I mentioned earlier, Warren Ellis, who does an afterwards for this omnibus edition. A remarkable work. Luther Arkwright, the hero we need for today.